You didn't stumble on this moment by accident. The fact that you are here, listening to these words, is already a sign that the shift has begun. Life has a way of guiding us to the right messages at the right time, and when it comes to the quantum field, nothing is random. The version of you who already embodies abundance, who already lives in freedom and wealth, is not just an idea or a dream. That version exists right now, in a parallel timeline, fully alive. The very reason this video reached you is because your frequency called it in. Think about how many paths, choices, and distractions fill your day. Out of all of that noise, you ended up here. That is not coincidence. It is coherence. The field mirrors back where you are headed, and by finding yourself in this space, you've confirmed that you are resonating with a higher possibility. It's the first encounter between who you've been and who you are becoming. The millionaire self you've imagined is not out of reach. They are you, existing simultaneously, waiting for you to align. This encounter is meant to awaken recognition within you. Perhaps you've been sensing that your old patterns are unraveling. Maybe you've noticed synchronicities multiplying, numbers repeating, or opportunities showing up in ways you can't quite explain. These signals are not random. They are the whispers of the quantum reminding you that the bridge is already built. All that's left is for you to cross it. But here's the key. The shift does not require years of effort, grinding, or endless proving. It requires resonance. The moment your energy steadies into coherence, the distance collapses. Time dissolves. What you've been chasing is revealed as something that was always here. You're not reaching into the unknown. You're tuning into a version of yourself that has been waiting patiently for you to recognize it. This first encounter with the truth can feel surreal. It may stir doubt, excitement, or even resistance. But underneath it all, there is a flicker of recognition in your chest. That flicker is not imagination, it is memory. On some level, you already know this version of yourself. You've met them in dreams, in visions, in those sudden flashes of possibility that light up your mind before logic dismisses them. They've been calling you closer, and now you've arrived. What you choose to do with this recognition is everything. You can dismiss it, return to the old stories of effort and struggle, and keep waiting for proof. Or you can trust that your presence here is proof enough. By listening now, by letting these words land, you've already taken the first step into alignment. The path is not about building wealth piece by piece. It's about embodying the frequency of the one who already lives it, and letting the field mirror that back to you. And if you feel that resonance stirring inside, pause and subscribe. This space exists to remind you that your shift is already happening, and I don't want you to miss what unfolds next. There is a truth that many overlook because it feels too expansive to accept. Every version of you already exists. Not just the one you see in the mirror today, not just the one conditioned by past choices and circumstances, but countless parallel versions of yourself, each living out a different frequency of possibility. Among them is the self who has already mastered abundance, who lives in financial freedom, who carries the certainty of wealth with ease. That version is not an imaginary character or a distant future self. It is real, alive and present within the quantum field right now. The field is not linear. It does not operate on the same timeline the human mind insists upon. Instead, it holds every possibility simultaneously, like countless radio stations broadcasting at once. You are the receiver, and whichever station you tune into determines which version of yourself you experience in the physical world. The millionaire self, the one you dream about, is already broadcasting. It has always been there. The only question is whether you will adjust your dial to match its frequency. This is why manifestation is less about creating and more about choosing. You are not pulling something out of nothing. You are aligning with what is already present. Just as light contains infinite colors, and yet you only see the one revealed by a prism, the quantum field contains infinite versions of you, and yet you only live the one you allow through resonance. The key is understanding that the wealth you desire is not far away, not separated by years of effort. It is here, humming at a vibration you can step into at any moment. The parallel truth dismantles the illusion of distance. Society teaches us that progress is step by step, that wealth is earned after long roads of sacrifice. But the field shows us that the version of you who already embodies abundance does not need to be built from scratch. It only needs to be recognized. You've met glimpses of this version in moments of flow, when opportunities aligned effortlessly, when ideas sparked with clarity, when you felt unstoppable for reasons you couldn't explain. Those moments are windows into the frequency of your abundant self. The millionaire version of you does not hustle frantically, nor do they cling to scarcity. They radiate certainty, not because of what they own, but because of who they are being. That energy is available now. You can begin to feel into it. Imagine the posture, the tone of voice, the choices they would make. As you embody those qualities, even in small ways, you are tuning yourself to their station. And once the alignment steadies, the field reorganizes everything around you to match it. This is the parallel truth. You are not striving to become something new. You are remembering what already exists. Wealth is not waiting in the future. It is vibrating here, now, in a version of you that is fully alive. All that is required is to tune in and let that reality become the one you walk in. From the moment you were young, you were likely told a story. That wealth is something distant, something reserved for the future after years of struggle, effort, and sacrifice. You may have been taught that success requires a long road, lined with obstacles, and that abundance only comes after you've paid your dues. That conditioning is powerful because it embeds the idea that there is a gap between who you are now and who you want to become. But in the quantum field, that gap doesn't exist. The idea of distance, the idea of waiting, is an illusion. The truth is that wealth is not measured in years. It is not built brick by brick in the way society has made you believe. Instead, it is accessed through vibration, through alignment. Think of it like tuning into a frequency on a radio. If you are dialed into scarcity, no amount of hard work will bring in the sound of abundance. But the moment you shift the dial, the music of wealth is already there, playing clearly. It didn't have to travel across time to reach you. It was always present, simply waiting for you to tune in. This is what makes the illusion of distance so convincing, because in physical life, things appear sequential. We measure progress by calendars, clocks, and milestones. But the quantum field doesn't operate on linear time. Every possibility exists simultaneously. The version of you who has already mastered wealth is alive right now, vibrating at their frequency. The moment you align with that vibration, the so-called distance collapses. What felt like it would take years can arrive in an instant. Many people struggle because they continue to measure their journey with the wrong ruler. They look at their bank account and see lack. They compare themselves to others and feel behind. They assume that because they don't yet see wealth in the physical, it must be far away. But the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it isn't already real. The quantum field responds to coherence, not to effort. It mirrors back who you are being in this moment, not how long you've been trying. When you internalize this truth, something profound happens. The pressure of time dissolves. The anxiety of waiting fades. You stop living in the story of someday and start embodying the reality of now. And that shift in perception is the very thing that allows the field to reorganize around you. What once felt impossibly far becomes startlingly close, not because it suddenly appeared, but because you finally tuned to the vibration where it was always present. The illusion of distance is what keeps most people stuck in the cycle of striving. They wait for years, believing the prize is down the road, when in truth it's already here. The moment you choose to resonate with abundance rather than scarcity, time collapses. The distance disappears, and wealth ceases to be a future you chase. It becomes a reality you inhabit. Money, at its core, is not good or bad. It is not inherently scarce or abundant. It is simply energy, neutral and responsive, shaped by the vibration you carry. When people misunderstand this, they attach emotions of fear, lack, or desperation to money, and those emotions distort the signal they send into the field. But when you see money as energy, you realize it doesn't judge you, it doesn't avoid you, and it doesn't choose some people over others. It simply mirrors coherence. Coherence is the state where your thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned with the vibration of what you desire. It is the opposite of fragmentation, where you think wealthy thoughts but carry fearful emotions, or you affirm abundance but act from desperation. The field doesn't respond to the words you say. It responds to the frequency you radiate. And money, being energy, flows where that frequency is steady. The version of you who is wealthy is not hustling endlessly or clinging tightly to control. That version radiates certainty, flow, and expansion. Certainty, not because they see endless numbers in the bank account, but because they trust the energy of wealth as something constant, something always available. Flow, because they understand that money moves, circulates, and grows when released, not when hoarded. Expansion, because their identity is not anchored in fear of loss, but in the knowing that abundance is their natural state. This frequency is not built on external proof. It's not about waiting until you see wealth to feel abundant. It's about embodying the feeling of wealth before the evidence appears, trusting that the field must align with your state. Imagine tuning into a song on the radio. You don't wait for the sound to prove the frequency exists. You trust that when you dial in, the music will play. Wealth works the same way. It flows when you dial into certainty. Most people live in contradiction. They want abundance, but they vibrate with scarcity. They chase money as if it's running away, reinforcing the belief that it is always out of reach. But the wealthy version of you doesn't chase. Chasing implies lack, that what you want is far away. The version of you living in wealth understands that money is drawn to certainty like a magnet. The stronger and steadier your coherence, the more naturally it flows. This doesn't mean you do nothing. It means your actions come from alignment instead of fear. Instead of grasping, you allow. Instead of doubting, you expand. Instead of questioning whether you're worthy, you live as though wealth is your default. The frequency of wealth is not about effort. It is about embodiment. When you embody certainty, flow, and expansion, money cannot help but respond. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of alignment. Wealth is not reserved for later. It is a vibration you can hold now. Money is energy, and energy always responds to coherence. The moment you radiate the frequency of wealth, you join the version of yourself who has always lived in it. The moment your vibration begins to steady, the field starts to speak back to you, not with loud declarations, not with dramatic fireworks, but with subtle precision. You notice repeating numbers on a clock or receipt, numbers that make you pause as if the universe itself is winking at you. Conversations you didn't expect open doors you hadn't seen before. A thought about money leads to a surprising opportunity appearing within hours or days. These aren't random accidents. They are signals of alignment, confirmations that you are tuning into the frequency of wealth that has always been present. When synchronicities begin to multiply, it's important not to dismiss them as mere coincidence. Coincidence is the language we use when we can't explain what's happening logically. But in truth, these patterns are the quantum field reflecting your coherence. They are the ripple effect of your vibration becoming steady enough for reality to reorganize itself around you. The wealth frequency is already alive within you, and these signals are proof that the bridge between your inner state and outer experience is forming. The field is responsive, but it doesn't always respond in the way the mind expects. You might not see a sudden deposit in your account right away, but you will notice a door opening that could lead to new flow. You might not win the lottery, but you may stumble across an idea that carries the potential to multiply in value. You may encounter people who embody wealth themselves, drawing you into networks and environments that mirror your rising state. Each of these moments is a whisper from the universe. Keep going. You are aligned. What makes this stage powerful is that it builds momentum. The more you recognize and honor these signals, the more they appear. Awareness itself amplifies alignment. When you see repeating numbers and smile in acknowledgement, you're saying yes to the confirmation. When you recognize an opportunity as a reflection of your shift, you strengthen your vibration. The field responds in kind, multiplying the signals until they become undeniable. But this is also where many people falter. They dismiss the signs as chance. They tell themselves it's meaningless, and in doing so, they tune back into doubt. The signs fade, not because they were never real, but because coherence was interrupted. The key here is to trust the confirmations even when the evidence isn't yet complete. The signals are the scaffolding of your new reality. Trust them, and the structure will finish itself. If you're experiencing these synchronicities now, know this: you are not imagining them. They are not tricks of the mind. They are markers that your frequency is lining up with the millionaire version of you. And if you feel the field speaking through these words, pause and leave a comment. How much money do you want to manifest? Declaring it is a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive. As your alignment strengthens and signals begin to appear, something interesting often happens. Old shadows resurface. Fear creeps back in, whispering that this can't be real, that you're just imagining progress. Doubt tells you the abundance you've been sensing won't last. Control urges you to grip tightly to outcomes, to force things back into familiar patterns. These moments can feel like setbacks, but they are not. They are echoes of the old frequency, remnants of the self you are leaving behind, rising one last time to be acknowledged and released. It's tempting to interpret these shadows as failure, as proof that the shift isn't working, but in truth, their reappearance is confirmation that you are progressing. If you were not moving forward, there would be no friction. The discomfort comes because you are no longer in full resonance with the old self. The vibration of scarcity, of survival, of control feels foreign now, and that very tension is proof that you've shifted. The field is asking, will you respond as you always have, or will you choose the response of your new identity? Fear will tell you to shrink back. Doubt will tell you to wait for evidence before you believe. Control will tell you to grasp and push, to manipulate outcomes as if abundance cannot flow naturally. But the wealthy version of you does none of these things. They breathe deeply into uncertainty and radiate certainty anyway. They release the need to micromanage, trusting the flow. They recognize fear and doubt as echoes, not as truths. Think of these moments as tests, not from a punishing universe, but from the old patterns themselves. They want to know if you're really done with them. They ask, are you sure you no longer belong here? Every time you respond as your new self, you collapse those old echoes further. They lose power because they are no longer being fed by your attention. Instead, you are strengthening the signal of abundance. This is where many people wobble. They feel the old patterns return and assume they've gone backward. But nothing could be further from the truth. Progress is not the absence of fear or doubt. It is the ability to recognize them without identifying with them. To say, I see you, but I don't live here anymore. That is the moment you step more fully into your new timeline. The shadows of scarcity are not here to drag you back. They are here to give you a choice. Each time you choose differently, each time you embody the certainty, flow, and expansion of your wealthy self, you are proving to the field that your frequency is stable, and the field responds by mirroring that stability in your reality. The shadows will fade, not because they've been defeated, but because you no longer resonate with them. They simply dissolve, leaving space for the coherence of wealth to take full form. The most powerful shift you can make is not in what you want, but in who you choose to be right now. Embodiment is the bridge that collapses the gap between you and the reality of wealth. Instead of seeing the millionaire version of yourself as someone far away, you begin to live as though that version is already you. This isn't about pretending. It's about aligning. It's about stepping into the state of being that broadcasts the frequency of abundance so clearly that the field cannot help but mirror it back. Every day ask yourself, how does the version of me who already has this wealth think? They do not spend their days questioning if they are worthy or doubting whether money will come. They think in terms of possibility, expansion, and ease. Their thoughts are not consumed by fear of loss, but by curiosity about new opportunities and ideas. To embody that state, begin shifting your mental patterns. When fear arises, pause and ask, is this how my abundant self would think? Then choose the higher thought. Next, consider how they decide. The millionaire version of you does not make choices from desperation or scarcity. They don't cling to the cheapest option out of fear. They make decisions based on alignment, on value, on what feels expansive. This doesn't mean reckless spending, but it does mean moving from trust rather than panic. To embody this, Practice making at least one small decision each day as your abundant self would, whether it's investing in yourself, saying no to something misaligned, or simply choosing with confidence. How do they move? Wealth has a posture, not of arrogance, but of ease. Shoulders relaxed, steps steady, presence grounded. The body language of wealth communicates certainty long before words are spoken. You can practice this now. Walk into a room as though you already carry the frequency of abundance. Let your body reflect the energy you are stepping into. And how do they speak? The millionaire version of you does not speak from lack. They do not dwell on what they can't afford or complain about what's missing. Their words carry gratitude, vision, and clarity. To embody this, begin noticing your language. Replace stories of scarcity with statements of expansion. Speak as though wealth is already here, because energetically, it is. The beauty of embodiment is that it bypasses waiting. You no longer live in someday. You live as though it's now, and the quantum field responds instantly to that coherence. When you consistently think, decide, move, and speak as your abundant self, the vibration steadies. The field does not see you as someone reaching, it sees you as someone being. And reality reorganizes to reflect that. Embodying the millionaire self is not pretending to be someone else. It's choosing to step into the version of you that has always existed, waiting in the field for you to align. The moment you embody it, the gap collapses. Wealth is no longer a pursuit, it becomes your state of being. There is a point in this journey where everything begins to shift in ways that feel almost too precise to dismiss. It happens not because you've forced more action, not because you've pushed harder, but because your inner signal has steadied. When your vibration is no longer wavering between doubt and belief, between scarcity and abundance, coherence forms. And in that moment of coherence, the quantum field does not delay. Probability waves collapse instantly. The wealth you once thought was far away begins to take shape around you with clarity and speed. Think of probability waves like countless doors, all available at once. As long as your energy is scattered, you hover in the hallway, moving back and forth, unable to choose. One moment you're aligned with abundance, the next you're pulled back into fear. The doors remain closed because the field doesn't yet know which version of you to reflect. But when your energy steadies, when you hold the vibration of wealth without interruption, one door swings open with force. That is coherence, the decisive collapse of possibility into reality. This is why the shift can feel sudden, almost miraculous. For weeks or months you may sense subtle signals, little nudges from the field. Then, almost overnight, opportunities converge. People you've never met appear with exactly the right connections. A business idea sparks and gains traction effortlessly. Money begins to flow in ways you never could have planned. It feels instant, but in truth, it is the natural result of coherence. Nothing was missing before. It was simply waiting for your signal to stabilize. Life begins to reorganize itself around your chosen identity. This is not about forcing the external world to change. It is about broadcasting such a clear frequency of who you are that reality has no choice but to mirror it back. The universe is not ignoring you, nor is it withholding. It is simply matching your vibration with exact precision. When you broadcast the identity of someone who already lives in wealth, the field reflects wealth. When you embody certainty, flow, and expansion, life arranges itself to confirm those qualities. The beauty of coherence is that it bypasses time. The mind may believe wealth takes years to build, but the quantum field does not operate on that timeline. The moment you become coherent, the shift is instant. You no longer feel like you're chasing possibilities. They come to you, drawn by the magnet of your steady frequency. The question is no longer when will it happen, but how much can I allow right now? This moment is the turning point. It is the collapse of the old probability waves, the dissolving of doubt, and the anchoring of your chosen reality. You are no longer standing in the hallway between doors. You have stepped fully into the room where wealth exists, and the room begins to fill with everything that matches your presence. Coherence is not just the proof of alignment, it is the power that makes the shift inevitable. There comes a moment when the shift stops feeling like theory and begins to show up in tangible ways. At first, it may seem subtle, an unexpected conversation that sparks a new idea, a chance meeting that opens a door, or a sudden surge of clarity about something that had felt confusing for months. But then the flow increases. One connection leads to another. Opportunities align with uncanny timing. Ideas land in your mind fully formed, ready to be acted upon. What once felt impossible begins to unfold with ease. This is the experience of overflow without effort. It can feel surreal, as if life itself has rearranged to support you. And in a way, it has. Because when your vibration steadies into coherence, the quantum field responds instantly. The collapse of probability doesn't just create one isolated event, it creates a cascade. The right people appear at the right time. Doors that were closed swing open. Situations you once thought required years of hard work resolve themselves quickly. You realize that the universe was never holding back. It was simply waiting for your alignment. Overflow is different from effort. Effort says, I must push, I must grind, I must control the outcome. Overflow says, I allow, I receive, I move with what is already here. In effort, you are swimming upstream, fighting the current, exhausting yourself to get somewhere. In overflow, the current carries you. You are still moving, still acting, but your actions are amplified by the flow rather than weighed down by resistance. This is not to say you do nothing. The ideas that come to you in this state ask to be acted on. The opportunities that arrive require you to say yes. But the difference is that these actions feel natural, even joyful. They don't feel forced. You no longer scramble, trying to make something happen out of fear. Instead, you choose with clarity, knowing the field has already arranged the path ahead. It is here that the mind begins to soften its grip. For so long, it believed wealth could only come through constant striving. But overflow reveals another truth. Abundance flows when you stop resisting and start resonating. The work is not in chasing, but in maintaining alignment. From that alignment, effort becomes ease, and action becomes an expression of who you are rather than a desperate attempt to prove your worth. You will know you've entered this stage because of how natural it feels. The extraordinary begins to feel ordinary. What once would have shocked you now feels inevitable. You stop questioning if the opportunities are real and start realizing they are simply the reflection of your frequency. Overflow without effort is not a miracle reserved for a few. It is the natural state of coherence, where life mirrors back the abundance you have chosen to embody. And once you taste it, you understand that alignment is the only true strategy. When the flow of abundance begins to open, it can feel exhilarating, and at the same time, overwhelming. You've spent years conditioning your mind and body to expect scarcity, to manage just enough, to survive rather than expand. Then suddenly, opportunities multiply, wealth moves toward you, and the current feels stronger than anything you've held before. In this moment, the greatest work is not about pulling more in, but about expanding your capacity to hold it. Abundance requires space, and that space begins within your nervous system. If you've ever poured too much water into a small cup, you know it will spill. Not because the water was wrong, but because the container wasn't large enough. The same is true for abundance. The field is infinite, but your body must learn how to live in overflow without collapsing back into old patterns. This is why expansion matters. It's about becoming a container wide enough, steady enough, to hold the flow of wealth with grace. Your nervous system plays a central role. For years, it has been wired to anticipate lack. When too much comes at once, it can interpret abundance as danger, triggering anxiety, self-sabotage, or a sudden urge to retreat. That's why some people push away opportunities or sabotage success without realizing it. Their container hasn't expanded yet. They are still wired for survival, not for overflow. But this can change. With awareness and practice, your nervous system learns to relax into abundance rather than resist it. Each time you allow yourself to receive without panic, you strengthen your capacity. Each time you breathe into the expansion instead of collapsing into fear, you teach your body that overflow is safe. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes normal. The extraordinary integrates into your everyday. Training your system to hold wealth is an act of presence. It's not about running faster or proving yourself worthy. It's about slowing down, grounding, and embodying the energy of someone for whom abundance is natural. This could look like pausing before making a decision, taking a deep breath when fear arises, or affirming to yourself that receiving more does not mean danger. It could mean surrounding yourself with environments that reflect stability and ease, so your body begins to associate wealth with safety. Expanding your capacity is what allows overflow to settle into permanence. Without expansion, abundance feels fleeting. With expansion, it becomes sustainable. You no longer scramble to catch up with the flow. You live inside it, steady and rooted. You no longer fear collapse because your container has grown to meet the wealth that was always meant for you. And if this message resonates, share this video with someone you care about. Your ripple could be the very signal that awakens their own shift. The field responds to coherence, and sometimes sharing what has opened your heart becomes the spark that ignites transformation in someone else. The arrival of wealth rarely looks the way the mind imagines it. We're conditioned to expect grand moments, fireworks, a dramatic announcement that everything has changed. But the truth is subtler, almost softer. One day you wake up and realize that what once felt far away is simply here, woven into the fabric of your daily life. There is no single event that defines the moment. Instead, it's the quiet accumulation of alignment becoming your natural state. You notice it in small things first. Bills that once brought stress now feel effortless to handle. Opportunities that once felt scarce appear regularly, almost predictably. Conversations flow with people who mirror your new vibration of abundance. It isn't a sudden explosion of wealth crashing into your life. It is the seamless recognition that you are already living inside the reality you once longed for. The extraordinary has blended into the ordinary, not because it is any less magical, but because you have become the person who lives there without question. This quiet arrival is often missed because the mind expects more drama. It wants a clear before and after, a moment that proves everything has shifted. But the field doesn't operate in theatrics. It operates in coherence. When your frequency stabilizes, reality simply adjusts. What was once unimaginable becomes obvious. What once seemed impossible becomes normal. And because it feels so natural, you may even overlook it at first, forgetting that there was a time when you desperately wanted what you now experience with ease. The true power of this stage is that it confirms integration. You are no longer chasing wealth, trying to grasp it or prove it is real. You are living it, breathing it, embodying it without effort. The struggle dissolves, and with it, the constant need for reassurance. You stop asking, "Is it working?" because the evidence is all around you. Not in the form of sudden explosions, but in the steady rhythm of life lived in alignment with abundance. This is also where gratitude deepens. You begin to feel a quiet reverence for the journey, for the shifts you endured, for the patience it took to trust the unseen before it became seen. Gratitude anchors you into the present, ensuring that wealth is not just something you have, but something you live from, a way of being rather than a possession. The quiet arrival of wealth is perhaps the most profound stage of all because it reveals the truth. You were never waiting for wealth to come to you. You were waiting to become coherent enough to see that it was here all along. And now, with clarity, you recognize it not as something extraordinary, but as the natural state of your life. Wealth has arrived, not with spectacle, but with inevitability. It is yours, because you have become the version of yourself who lives it without effort, without question, without delay. There comes a stage in your shift where the chase ends, not because you gave up, but because you finally recognize the truth. You are no longer pursuing wealth. You are wealth. The version of you who once looked outside for signs, who sought constant confirmation that abundance was real, fades away. In their place stands a new identity, one that radiates the frequency so clearly that life itself cannot help but mirror it. You stop asking the field for proof because your presence has become the proof. Becoming the signal means you no longer treat wealth as something separate from you. It is not a destination you hope to reach or a prize you strive to earn. It is who you are, expressed in the way you think, the way you move, the way you choose. Your energy has become so steady, so coherent, that you no longer wonder if the field is listening. You know it is, because reality around you continues to confirm it with precision. Every opportunity, every synchronicity, every flow of abundance is a reflection of what you now radiate effortlessly. This stage feels different because the desperation is gone. You don't cling to affirmations or chase after rituals, hoping they'll unlock your wealth. Instead, you embody the truth that you already carry the vibration of the millionaire timeline. And because you embody it, you attract naturally. People sense your certainty without you saying a word. Opportunities align because your field is broadcasting stability and expansion. It is no longer about trying. It is about being. When you are the signal, you also stop waiting for permission. You don't look for external validation to tell you that you are ready. You know you're ready because you've already stepped into it. Your choices carry a new weight, not of fear, but of confidence. You invest in yourself differently. You speak differently. You move with the quiet assurance of someone who already inhabits the life they once thought was out of reach. And in doing so, you collapse the distance between who you were and who you are now. The most powerful part of becoming the signal is that it extends beyond wealth. Your energy doesn't just call in money. It calls in experiences, relationships, opportunities that align with the expanded version of you. Because wealth is not just currency. Wealth is the freedom to choose, the space to create, the energy to expand. And as the signal, you broadcast all of it. You are no longer the seeker of signs. You are the sign. Every interaction, every decision, every step you take radiates the frequency of abundance. And because the field mirrors coherence with absolute precision, life continues to confirm what you already know. You are living your millionaire timeline. And if you feel that truth anchoring inside you, leave a comment. I am living my millionaire timeline. Let it be your declaration, your signal to the field that the shift is already complete. There is a moment in every journey when the distance between desire and reality collapses entirely. What was once an idea you repeated in your mind, a dream you hoped for, becomes the air you breathe. Claiming the timeline is that moment. It is no longer about wishing, waiting, or convincing yourself it might happen. It is about standing fully inside the wealth you once longed for and declaring with certainty, it is already mine. At this stage, hesitation fades. The energy of someday dissolves, replaced by the knowing that you have crossed the threshold. You no longer ask if you are worthy or if you're ready. You recognize that worthiness was never the question. You were always enough, and the only shift required was coherence. By aligning your energy, your choices, and your presence with abundance, you have drawn the timeline close enough to step into it. And now, you live it. Claiming is not a mental trick. It is not about repeating words without belief. It is a full-bodied declaration, a signal to the field that you are not playing small anymore. You are not halfway in, halfway out. You are rooted. You are steady. You are the wealthy version of yourself, not in theory, but in practice. Every breath, every action, every decision confirms it. The claim is not about force. It is about recognition. It is about finally allowing yourself to see that the shift is complete. This is where ownership replaces longing. Ownership doesn't beg for evidence. It creates it. You don't wait for proof because your life itself becomes the proof. The wealth is in your decisions, in your ease, in the way opportunities flow to you. It's in the way you hold yourself, no longer doubting, no longer chasing, simply knowing. And because the quantum field mirrors what you embody, life organizes around your declaration. The claim becomes the anchor that locks you into the frequency of your chosen reality. For many, this is the hardest step because it requires finality. To claim means to stop waiting. It means to stop circling the question of whether abundance is possible and to step fully into the knowing that it is already done. That leap can feel vulnerable, as though you're risking everything by declaring it. But in truth, the only risk is holding back. The moment you claim it, the field locks into coherence and wealth ceases to be a pursuit. It becomes your state of being. This is your moment to declare, to stop playing small, to stop lingering on the edge, and to own the reality that is already yours. The timeline you once called a dream is now your present. The abundance you longed for is the air you breathe. And if you feel this moment landing in your journey, pause and subscribe. This channel exists to keep you aligned with the shift, and I don't want you to miss the next unfolding.